Hello and welcome to the TES Secondary Maths Resource of the Week number 37 with me, Craig Barton. Now, out of all the GCSE topics where kids notoriously drop marks left, right and centre, this is one of the most deadly, comparing box and whisker plots. And your classic questions in GCSE exams tend to revolve around perhaps giving students a box plot and get them to read off information such as tell me the median. Or maybe it's something like, here's a cumulative frequency diagram, can you draw a box plot from it? Or maybe it's even a nasty one such as, here's some raw data, can you draw a box plot from it? And kids, in my experience, tend to be not too bad at that. But the one that they all drop marks on is when they're given two box plots and they're asked to make some comparisons. And it tends to be 2 marks or even 3 or 4 marks for making these comparisons. So for example, it might be something like, here's Class A's scores in a maths test, here's Class B's, make some comparisons. And kids will tend to write some absolute rubbish for this. They might say something like, Class B has a higher interquartile range, and then leave it at that. Which is probably true, but what on earth does that mean? And they certainly lose their mark when they have to relate it back to something in the context of the question. So there's a mark gone there. Or possibly worse than that is something like where they'll say, Class B's interquartile range is higher, therefore they did better on the test. And it shows they've got a major misunderstanding and they think interquartile range is some kind of measure of average or some kind of something equivalent to the median. Now, I've tried to get around this in previous years by getting kids to create their own data and coming up with data sets that are meaningful to them, and that certainly helps. But this resource that's been uploaded by New Year Baby 90 is now going to become an absolutely essential component to my way of tackling box plots in the future. And I trialled this with my Year 11 class and it made a real difference. So let's have a look at it. It consists of 2 PowerPoints, one of which is a worksheet for the kids to kind of play along with and follow, and the other of which is the kind of class presentation PowerPoint. And it starts off with just a box and whisker diagram, and then here's the big question. Kids are presented with 3 movies, film A, film B, film C, and 3 questions. What can you tell about these films from the box plots? Could you work out the genre? Compare the box plots and write down anything you notice. I gave my kids 5 minutes to do this in groups, and they really struggled. Because I think it's the first time that they've had to really think, given no extra information, what can they deduce from it? But they liked it because it was something that they could relate to. It was movies, it was ages, it wasn't some bizarre thing that didn't mean anything to them. And then came the real power of the lesson. It's these multiple choice questions. Now, those of you who are familiar with my kind of outside work will know that I'm a huge fan of these diagnostic questions. And indeed, I've just dropped an email to the author of this resource, New Year Baby 90, to ask if permission if I can use these questions on my own website, diagnosticquestions.com, because they'll be absolutely brilliant AFL technique for identifying kids' misconceptions. So students are asked questions. Which of these films do you think you would not be illegally allowed to watch at the cinema? And it's an interesting one. I mean, what are kids going to go off there? Are they going to look at the medians? Are they going to look at the range? Are they going to look at the interquartile range? And they're asked to vote on that, whether it be with ABCD cards or mini whiteboards or fingers, 1 for A, 2 for B, 3 for C, 4 for D, and then asked to give some mathematical justification for it. And me as a teacher, watching this and watching how the kids vote, I can learn so much about the understanding and misunderstanding that kids have with something like this. And then it carries on. What about this one? What percentage of films B's audience were between 15 and 30? So this is a great question. Can kids actually get numbers or percentages or proportions from box plots? Do they know that the interquartile range contains the middle 50% of the data? Has that ever been told to them? Have they remembered it? Have they understood it? Well, here's a way to find out. And it's just lovely questions which, after you've taught the fundamentals of box plots, really test whether kids have that deep understanding that's going to allow them to answer every question correctly in an exam. And I'm all in favour of getting kids to write about data in a way that's actually meaningful and actually makes sense and not just churn out the usual rubbish that I mentioned at the start of this video. What about this one as well? Which of the following are reasons why your parents will probably prefer film A? And again, just getting them to think and communicate things in words that actually matter and mean something. And then there comes a really tricky challenge. Now that they've chatted about that and got a bit better at interpreting, can they actually deduce what the genre of each of the films were? And I love this. Justify your decision using mathematical language. And here are some suggested answers for them there. And if kids can be getting to the stage where they can write these kind of things, then they're going to be absolutely nailing their higher GCSE. And then I guess comes the ultimate test, because once they've done it in that context, can they then apply that knowledge to other contexts? So here's your more traditional exam-based question about the weights of perhaps boys or girls or whatever it might be. And I bet that the kids are a lot better at answering this once they've done the first kind of set of activities than they would have been if they just approached this cold, or worse still, if they just, first time they saw this was in the actual exam. And then there's more diagnostic questions for them to do and more exam style questions for them to take on. So it's an absolutely wonderful resource that's perfect to use once your kids have studied the basics of box and whisker diagrams and are ready to take their understanding to the next level. So a lovely, lovely, lovely resource, kindly uploaded by New Year Baby 90. So hope you enjoyed that one. If you have used it or had any success or thoughts or ideas or suggestions, please share them in the comments section on the blog below, and I shall return with a fresh resource of the week next week. Take care and bye for now.